All right, Maddie, let's take a look at your essay. We're going to start with the introduction and work our way down. So, you have a pretty short essay, which isn't necessarily bad, but I'm seeing a reason why it's short, so we're going to talk about it as we go through this. So, mercy killings are a way to put someone out of a long, painful suffering. The hook is okay. You are introducing the topic in a way that's not defining it and saying this is a way of how it's used, which is a little bit different than a typical dictionary definition, but there are definitely ways you can improve this to make this better to engage your audience. These are the best ways to have short lives with little to no pain after freak accident or severe birth defect. You have a random spacing issue here, a random double spacing. And I'm not sure what you're talking about with these. I obviously know you talked about mercy killings, but think about what this word is functioning as. These are the best ways to have short lives. And I would be careful with how you word this. So I'm looking at word choice as something to think about because for me, I know what you're getting at with how you're reading this, but this could be misinterpreted as short lives are the optimal or best lives to live. So that's just something to be mindful of. In here, we do have a contraction. There is, so you want to spell that out. But because you use the plural ways and the plural mercy killings, there should be there are. So there are ways to improve mercy killings to make them better and more efficient. We need mercy killings to save people from suffering long, painful life. I think you mean lives, lives. So looking at your introduction, it's okay. It's a good start. A few grammar errors with verb and noun agreement. And I'm just writing that on your rubric. But this is an interesting statement. Oh, I don't want to move that. We need mercy killings to save people from suffering long, painful lives. So typically with this kind of paper, it does work as an open thesis because you're talking about how we do need this. So even though you don't address the word ethical, which is kind of what the point is, I will kind of forego that right now because you are saying, well, this is something necessary, and you do talk about some reasons. So the thesis is okay how it is. What I would like to see is maybe some more build-up between your hook and your thesis, because I've seen your writing and I think you can do more with this. So moving on into your next body paragraph, we have a redundancy here. Should be allowed, should be allowed. You only need should be allowed once. And you talk about what the difference is. It could be shorter, less painful. Talking about public ideas within and taking away how people see it as murder. And then with the right certifications, any doctors can make a full-time job out of the supply or economy with more jobs. So there's a few different things going on with your essay. So the prompt that you had to take was whether or not mercy killings are ethical. And you're saying, okay, they should be allowed by medical professionals and we need to take away the murder aspect. But the thing is, you don't have any specific examples. So this, I could see this as a clear as day way for you to have integrated something from the Kevorkian article because he's obviously one of the leading doctors of the euthanasia movement. So that is something to consider. And in this, we hinge on hypotheticals. You are assuming the doctors will make a full-time job out of this, and it will supply the economy with more jobs. So just an area of caution here, when you put these hypotheticals out here, we're like, it's going to do this, and it's going to do this. You need evidence to back it up. And I see a few of you talking about the economics aspect of this, but I think you don't. I don't know. It just doesn't work. Let's put it that way. Because you don't necessarily know that this will make it into a full-time job and will create more jobs. We don't know that unless there's some aspect of it. But I can see some way in the articles you could have evidence to back this up. But the problem is, even if you back that up with evidence and then use this as a crux for your analysis, it doesn't necessarily answer the question of whether or not it's ethical. So that's what I would have you be concerned with, is how does this all relate back to the ethical component of mercy killings? Okay, so what I did is I switched over to Microsoft Word so I can kind of go through this paragraph with you. So mercy killing should be practiced under the consent of the patient. So again, not necessarily tied into the ethical component, but because patient consent is a key idea that is related to mercy killing, I'm going to let this slide. With given consent to kill them at a time of sanity, you need a comma there. A patient would have full recollection and knowledge of the death. Okay. I don't like this full recollection and knowledge of the death. Because the problem with full recollection is it's kind of implied that after this happens, they're going to be able to recall this happening to them. And I'm not sure if dead people can recall that. That is definitely a spiritual belief that people have, but that is something to be mindful of what you're saying here. So instead of saying full recollection, maybe say, with given consent to kill them at a time of sanity, a patient would have their own autonomy in choosing how to end their lives in a safe and effective manner. Because you do talk about safety and effectiveness earlier, and this way, autonomy is a great word for this. It's ownership, like your own ownership. And then, if not able to consent at a time of sanity, the power to blah, blah, blah. What I would say, if not able, well, you're missing a word here, if not able to consent. But instead, say, if the patient is unable to consent at a time of sanity, actually, now that I'm thinking about sanity, I would say, or clear consciousness. And the only reason I would say throw that, hold on, did I spell that right? I did spell that right. Did I spell that right? I spelled it right. The only reason I would say that is because sometimes people may look at the word sanity and be like, well, what if someone's insane? And that could mean something different. So if you throw in that clear consciousness, it means that they do have that autonomy there. The power to decide or give consent should be given to the I would just say the caretaker, not seeker, taker of the patient, right? Because as you put over here, this would give them the same power to pull the plug if the patient was brain dead. This is great. You do have analysis here. You're looking at that nuance, like, well, when people are on life support, we do have the ability to pull the plug, but that's like right at the end that decision is made. And then you say, this is why we need mercy killings with medical assistance. So I think this is okay. I think what's missing, obviously, is your specific examples that you need to incorporate into here. And let's see. What could I say? You could even throw it in, I don't know. This is a weird paragraph because really your example could work really well and more effectively towards the end. So I would say, for example, let's use the Roswell Gilbert from the Time article, caretaker of the patient. For example, as mentioned in Times 2000, I'm already forgetting it. I apologize. Times 2005 article on mercy killing. A Florida man named Roswell, I'm throwing the names together. Florida man named Roswell Gilbert shot his wife in the back of the head because she was suffering like an animal. I think that's about what the quote is. And then you could say the Gilberts should have been given the choice of a mercy killing given the inability for the wife to fully function given her incurable diseases. And then when you put in there, this would give them the same power to pull the plug if the patient was brain dead. This is why we need mercy killings with medical assistance. So you can pause this and look at the paragraph and maybe jot down some ideas or whatever. But this is a much more effective article because or paragraph. Because what I'm seeing with yours is you have some good examples, but you could use a little bit more analysis with yours. So let's go back into your paper and scroll down and go from here. So you bring up of mice and men, but you have of mice and men spelled incorrectly. So don't forget that of. The of is an important part of the title. You talk about Candy's dog. Wait, hold on. Candy doesn't kill the old man's dog. Candy is the old man. It's Slim. Nope. Carlson, sorry. Carlson kills Candy's dog. Yes, because Slim kills the puppies. So you have this backwards. And then if you're using Slim, please make sure you capitalize it. You need to swap these two words. All are prime examples of ethical and effective mercy killings. So if you say this is a good example and how it's ethical, you need to make sure you're taking the time to explain why that is ethical. And then don't start a sentence with but. That does not work because it's a conjunction. And George kills Lenny. And then you have a contraction there as well. So the thing I'm noticing is, let me talk about grammar for a second. You have grammar issues. The only thing I'm seeing routinely would be word choice and some verb. No, that's the only one I'm seeing routinely is things to consider with word choice. But everything else is just kind of sporadically here, so be mindful of that. But again, here in this paragraph, like the rest of them, you are kind of missing out on the analysis component, and that's what you need. So finally, when we get to your conclusion, mercy killing should be allowed in the United States under certain rules, laws, and conditions. You need some commas here because these are a series of a list, and that requires commas. So we put one after rules, after laws, and that's it. Mercy killings need to be done by a medical professional and should be consented to by either the caretakers, not seekers, or the patient at a time of complete sanity. Connects to blah, blah, blah. Mercy killings keep, not keeping, people out of suffering and slow, painful deaths. So your conclusion is actually pretty good. I would say your conclusion is a good thing that wraps up and restates your thesis and then gives some examples with it. But as I look at the rest of your essay, there are some grammar concerns, which usually when I look at grammar, it's about routine errors. And the main one I'm seeing would be word choice and some verb-noun agreements. Those are the ones I routinely see as concerns. Actually, did I see an opposing paragraph? No, I do not. And then one thing you are also missing is you're missing your paragraph that acknowledges the opposing side of it being ethical. But overall, that is the key thing, is I think you have a good start, but what you need is you need to be able to tie it into your specific examples and have your analysis with it. Because if I go back to this Word doc, I don't think I changed as much, I just added to it. And I think that's all your essay is missing, is adding to it. And I definitely know you're capable of doing that. So be cognizant of that as we move on to our next essay. Because your next one will be on the Crucible. Okay?